Now, what do you say we get some insights on this week's forecast with Nebraska Extension Ag Climatologist and Market Journal Chief Meteorologist Al Dutcher? Al, what's the big weather story for the week ahead?
Well, Troy, after a very hot start to the week, we've finally seen that cold front come through that was advertised last week. But it came through about 24 hours later than what was originally forecasted. So we held the heat, at least in southeastern and east central Nebraska, much longer than the models anticipated. But we finally broke those upper 90-degree readings and those very high dew points with the cold front that came through. And for the first time in a long time, the models are actually showing a very promising trend in regards to precipitation. In fact, pretty much every day there's chances for precipitation once we get into the middle to the end of next week. So let's take a look at the upper air models and see what we have in store as we go through this next 7-day period. First thing I'll draw your attention to is the high pressure system is now in the upper atmosphere is now shifted off to the west. We have this trough that's basically sitting up over the Great Lakes, and this will intensify as we go through the weekend. So basically high pressure is in control over the southeastern United States. We do get some return flow up into our region. And the GFS models are showing the development of thunderstorms rolling down the Missouri River Valley. And we'll see that trend continue on as this high pressure system just basically sits stationary. We still have the front of that trough, or the back of that trough, excuse me, the Great Lakes, sitting over eastern Nebraska. And so the GFS model once again is also indicating the potential for another piece of energy to run about that ridge and run down the eastern half of the state. Now as we go into Monday, we see that ridge trying to spread its way back into western Nebraska. We'll probably see our temperatures return to the 90s, lower to mid 90s, but in the east we'll probably be stuck more into the upper 80s. But yet again, another piece of energy looks like it's going to pivot around that ridge and hit the eastern part of the state. Now, by the time we get to Tuesday, we start to see this large trough moving across the northern plains, and that's going to be our cool down as we get later in the week. But low pressure sits up in the eastern portions of South Dakota. We don't have a lot of return moisture, but there is the opportunity at least to get some scattered thunderstorm activity, very sparsely across our region. On Wednesday, though, this trough starts to dig deeper, so the high pressure is pushing behind it, low pressure over the Texas Panhandle, Gulf moisture feeds northward. We should see a line of convection developing from the western Great Lakes all the way through southwestern Nebraska. And on Thursday, this trough ever so slowly pivots toward the Great Lakes. So we are going to continue to see a fetch of moisture from the south coming in at the lower layers of the atmosphere. We will also have, basically with that trough, moisture converging along that system, so we are going to have a chance for, again, the eastern half of the state seeing scattered thunderstorm activity. And then on Friday, we get more of a zonal flow. We might start to see just a slight warm up in temperatures, but low pressure looks like it's going to form in the northwestern part of the state and right eastward. That's going to push that colder air and the cold front to the east of us, but notice that we see this moisture returning. As this system pushes to the east, we'll start to see monsoon flow take into shape. That's going to start moving moisture up into the central Rockies, and we have another trough that looks like it's going to come through the northern plains as we go into the last week of August, and that's going to generate once again renewed thunderstorm activity for our region. So if we look at the 8 to 14-day forecast, you can see that the heat is being pushed to the east as we start to see high pressure forming over the eastern United States. Cold to our west was kind of a change from what we've been seeing. And in terms of precipitation, for the first time in a long time, well above normal moisture for most of the Corn Belt as we see a series of impulses ejecting out of that trough coming in from the Pacific Northwest.